Yeah, how it's like, oh, well, like who buys this stuff? Like, what's the point of this? It's actually factually proven to be a CIA psyop, and I'm not even joking. That's all. Just wanted to put that
just
out
throwing
there.
Out of there.
just some food for thought. You could look into it if you want.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 36 of the Coconut Curry podcast. On this episode, we are going to discuss the NBA Finals, which just wrapped up with the Boston Celtics defeating Dallas Mavericks 4-1. I know it's a dark day here for all parties. If you're new around here, we are two Sixers fans and a Knicks fan, so we are struggling right now. We're also going to discuss Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese because they are beefing once again, and the media has completely blown it out of proportion again. And then we're going to go over the top 10 players in the league as the postseason has wrapped up and the NBA season has concluded. But before we do all that, we are three postgraduate students from the University of Pittsburgh. We've got myself, Raj, and Peter all on today in store for a good podcast episode. And we're just chatting about sports and hopefully offering a fresh new perspective. If you could please like, comment, subscribe, it would help us out a lot. Before we say anything else on this podcast, I wanted to give a huge shout out to the MLB because I saw a stat this weekend that they had the highest attended weekend in MLB since 2008 this past weekend, which is super rad and cool. So that's minus the postseason, but I just thought it was super cool and like very much shows how baseball has like come back in a strong way with the pitch clock and things that they have done.
I was just about to say, everybody crying about the pitch clock. They're like, it's injuring pitchers. It's like, guys, injuries have been up for the past 10 years because we are forcing pitchers to throw 100 miles an hour on every pitch. It's good for the game, I swear.
But great for the sport. We also typically react to comments, but there are none to react to. So we're going to skip that section for today. Keep commenting if you have a hot take. But
please,
now it's time to hop into our favorite segment of the week, Disgruntled Moment of the Week. Disgruntled meaning dissatisfied or angry. We talk about moments in the sports world, in our personal lives that make ourselves, others, anybody really disgruntled. So, Raj, the reason this segment was created...
I just read what he called him. Oh my God.
We'll be first.
So, I hate Taijuan Walker. I don't like him. He pitched okay against the Orioles, but I just don't like the dude. He shouldn't be. We're paying him all this money just for him to be a Tobias Harris on this team. When we have Turnbull, who's just waiting for his turn. Turnbull was lights out, like when he was having to start while Taijuan was injured. If anything, I wish Taijuan was out for the whole season. That dude's a liability. He's become an insult to people. I insult people by saying you play like Taijuan Walker. He's just not good anymore. He's washed.
You're showing up to LA Fitness Open Court just saying you play like Taijuan Walker.
Yeah, I will. That's hella disrespectful. Tell us when they play like Taijuan Walker.
There was nothing funnier. Sorry to cut you off, Raj, but at the grad party we were at this past weekend, we were playing some drinking games, and Raj pulls out the Taijuan Walker insult, and some dude, we have no idea who this dude was. He might have been 30 years old playing with us. I don't know why this guy was there, but he was like, "That is the most insulting thing I have ever heard," and people have legitimately questioned my intelligence and whether or not my IQ is above room temperature, and that was the most insulting thing someone said to me. It was so funny.
Hey, that's a Philly faithful for you.
There you go.
God. Anyways, Taijuan, either pick it up and start fighting for your contract, bud, or your ass is going to be traded and Turnbull's taking your spot.
Strong words.
There you go. Strong words.
Peter, do you want to take next?
Yes. So my disgruntled moment of the week is Justin's takes on hockey and the NHL. So for a long time, I've been a hockey fan for a little while now. I'm a Rangers fan, and these two are Flyers fans. No matter how much Raj tries to insist that he's a Devils fan, he was a Devils fan for one season when they were good, but then flipped back over to the Flyers when the Devils were somehow even worse than the Flyers. And for so long, I kept trying to inject some sort of hockey into this podcast, and everyone's like, no, not having it.
We don't talk about
when there was
here.
5 of us on this podcast, not having it. No one's having any of this.
We talked about soccer,
so I'm like, whatever.
About hockey.
Absolutely, which kind of makes sense. Soccer is a bigger sport than hockey, but anyway. This dude has the audacity, the absolute audacity, to send a text message. I think I have it up. Hang on. Let me read this thing out. It is. Here it is. Yep. Was this in the middle of the finals game when you sent this out?
Post finals,
or was this? This was post finals. Yeah. So this was post finals. This dude. Oh my god, I hate you.
Yesterday, right?
This dude.
Yeah, this was yesterday.
Yeah. Finals were 2 days ago. Oh my god. Damn it. I thought I lost it. Whatever. Basically, long story short, this guy goes, wow, this Oilers-Panthers game is really good now.
That's pretty much word for word what I said.
Yeah, like the audacity. If after you have on hockey for so long, you watch the finals, which arguably, I'd say the NHL finals are like a minimum top 3 final, probably arguing for top 1. Yes, thank you. I am just as big as op. Thank you, Raj. Top 1, like, final game for any sport. It is amazing to watch hockey. Playoff hockey is incredible. And this dude has been all over hockey for years at this point. And you have the audacity to tune into one of the best games and go, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, no, I've been saying that for years now. Now we're deciding to give it credit. It's insane.
In my defense, I hadn't watched games 1, 2, or 3. I just knew that the Panthers were up 3-0. Then me and my dad this weekend, we went down to Baltimore for the Phillies-Orioles 2 games. And we were at a sports bar at the end. And the only thing that was on after the Phillies game was the Stanley Cup. And I was 3-0, and I was like, oh, it'd be really funny if like Edmonton blew them out, like similar how, because they were drawing comparisons between the Celtics and Mavs series to the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I was Stanley Cup final. So I was like, that'd be funny. We're watching the game. Panthers get absolutely like rocked. Like they pulled their keeper in the second.
It was 8-1.
Yeah, they pulled their keeper.
It was
insane.
The
Panthers pulled their keeper in the second period. It was like ridiculous. So then yesterday I was just scrolling through the TV as one does, and then I was like, oh, this game is on. Let me see what's going on. And that was like, it was 4-3. I was like, oh wow, okay, third period, cool. We'll watch a little bit. And I was like, this was really good. And then this player from the Panthers made a great save that didn't matter at all, because then Connor McDavid just like kind of like kicked it right into the goal with his, and it was like that. So great series. I'm excited to see. I'm tuned in for Game 6 now. Can Edmonton make it a 3-3 series, Game 6, and bring it back to Florida 7 for Game 7?
Yeah, like unironically, they could be one of the first teams ever to do a reverse sweep in a final.
Oh, Florida's,
which is insane.
Florida's sweating.
Yeah, they're sweating big. Yeah, so thank you for finally joining the hockey bandwagon and how interesting it can be. I can't wait for your takes on the Flyers next year. It's going to be so much fun to listen to you two talk about that.
There will be no takes.
It's
on
never
going
to happen.
No
it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
I was going to talk about the Detroit Pistons, but then we were talking before the podcast, and I'm just going to be honest. I'm disgruntled about Louisiana politics. Raj sent in our group chat earlier. If people did not see this, I wouldn't even consider this a hot take by 3 liberal college guys. Louisiana decided should display the 10 Commandments in every single classroom, and just an absolute like disgrace to church-state separation, to just like people not choosing to be religious, and it's most likely going to get struck down in the courts. But the fact that they even passed a law like that has me really disgruntled on today. So
yeah, and let me make it abundantly clear. I myself am a Christian, and this is utterly ridiculous. The entire the entire point of the United States is the separation of church and state. That's literally why we were founded. Like, that was one of the biggest reasons, where it's like freedom of speech and religion were like literally the 2 things. Like that, like it's in the Constitution, it's in the Declaration of Independence. Like, it's kind of very important to the United States. So it's, I don't know, it's ridiculous. And it's like, oh well, you should be able to do it. Yeah, you can do it if you're a private school. This is like state-funded state schools. Like, it's the exact opposite of what you should be doing.
But it's like, it's so Louisiana. They were also the first state, as soon as Roe v. Wade got kicked out of law. They were
yeah.
the first state that were like, oh yeah, you know what? You just can't get an abortion no matter what. No exceptions.
Yeah.
Very like on brand.
Yeah. Well, that's Jacob's state. So that's the state he represents. That's his state. That's his fault.
Yep.
So he has to attest to that.
So I'm putting aside my Detroit Pistons disgruntledness today because I'm disgruntled with the state of politics generally, but just specifically in this case with Louisiana politics. So.
Wait, sorry, side note. Have you guys seen that trend on TikTok where it's like, God, it's like me in 2028 on like the beaches of Taiwan after I just got shot, and like the last memory that comes to me is some like nostalgic thing, or it's like me in the Battle of Moscow in like 2032 or something like that. It's like we're joking about this now, but like legitimate possibility there that World War III could pop off at any moment.
Hey, Putin's visiting Kim over in North Korea, so
oh, thank God.
So, anything's possible. If the podcast goes away for about like, I don't know, a year.
Could you imagine how hilarious that would be? It's like we don't post for a long time, and then it's just like all of us in different fatigues, and it's like, yeah, so we all got drafted.
One of us has like an amputation.
Yeah.
One of us has Justin bringing in our.
Yeah, Justin and Raj are both in a base in Germany right now as doctors, and I'm currently on the front lines of Kyiv as an army medic. Sup, guys?
At least we'd all be medics. We wouldn't actually be like fighting.
That is true, yeah.
We're valuable in that sense. Their secret plan.
It's all fun and games to get shelled by a bomb.
It's all fun and games until the tactical nuclear warheads start heading your way.
Until Russia decides that medics aren't off limits.
War crimes? I've never heard of them.
The Geneva Conventions?
Never heard of her. I thought that was a checklist.
Anyway, aside from that, that's Disgruntled Moment of the Week, our favorite segment. A blast as always. But now we're going to hop in to the finals. The NBA season for 2023-2024 wrapped up on Monday with the Boston Celtics winning championship number 18, beating the Dallas Mavericks 4-1. Jaylen Brown gets the final MVP. As we mentioned on the start of the podcast, not a good day for us because 2 Sixers fan, 1 Knicks fan, but all in all, the Celtics were the front runners to begin the year. They were the odds-on favorite to win the championship. There was never a doubt. They had the best record in the Eastern Conference by a mile, had a dominant playoff run where they only lost 3 games, and that's all I really have to say. They were dominant from start to finish, and honestly, they were the rightful winners of the championship, whether or not I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a whole lot to really say because like initially it was like there was some thought of like, oh, could the Mavs offense be so good that they'll be able to really overcome the Celtics good defense and like shoot them out the jet? Didn't happen.
Nope.
Never really came close. One game because I guarantee that the Celtics were just like, yeah, we'll lose this game, but we'll take it back and win it in Boston. Why not? Because they could just screw around. They were winning by like 20 points in like every single game at one point. Like it's, again, I hate the Celtics with all of my heart, but it is kind of cool to see. It's like, look, this team has been good for a little while. They went all in this year. They're a very team-centered basketball team. They're not like, because of course the chirp is always, well, Jason Tatum's not that good. Well, it's like, yeah, this doesn't have to be. And like, that's kind of good for basketball because it's like, it's not just superstars doing their thing. It's like, yeah, this is a team. Like they all work well together. Like that's the point. But yeah, so good for basketball, bad for everybody else.
Yeah. And Peter, you mentioned just the point differential. They won game 1 by 18, won game 2 by 7. It was 20 late, and the Mavericks had a crazy run back, so it wasn't never felt that close. Boston wins by 7 in game 3. They lose by 38 in game 4, where they weren't trying. And then in game 5, they came back and won by 18. So 18-7, 7-18 for their margin of victory. Just not a super competitive series in that front. And yeah, I like what you said. Like, I love the chirp, the Celtics as much as anyone, but like, there's a lot of pressure on a team when you have the pressure on you starting from day one. We just watched a team of the Nuggets where everyone kind of thought the Nuggets last year We're a team that could go on to win this year's championship and maybe start a run of multiple champions. I think people forget we haven't had back-to-back champions since the Warriors did it with KD. It's been a revolving door. So like the Boston Celtics were the team, not the Boston Celtics, the Denver Nuggets were thought to be the team that could do it and win back-to-back and kind of start that like, oh, are you a potential dynasty? No, they got bounced in the second round. They didn't even make it to the conference finals, nonetheless the NBA finals. So it's never easy, no matter what, between injuries, between ebbs and flows, between bad matchups. It's never easy to be the team that goes through all the way. So I think hats off to like Brad Stevens, the GM, for putting that team together. Obviously, he goes from the coaching role up to the desk and he trades for Drew. I think people forget and take for granted how this team came together. I think people think like, oh, they just had all these players. Like going into the year, they had Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and they had Al Horford, but they didn't have Drew Holiday. They didn't have Kristaps Porzingis, and some of their bench guys were the same. But those were guys that they brought in key parts of their team. They obviously had Derek White because they traded for him a year or two ago. But Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis are key reasons why the team got to where they were going this year. Obviously, Kristaps had a rough postseason with injuries, but was vital in Game 1 of the series. And I think they might win the championship without Drew Holiday and have Marcus Smart instead. I think it's probably a 7-game series if they don't have Drew Holiday.
I think it's a lot closer without Holiday, absolutely.
And that's a guy that they traded for after he got traded to the Blazers, and people thought they might have given up a lot for him at the time, and they just kept going for it. And Joe Mazzulla, being the youngest coach since Bill Russell to win an NBA title is huge. So all sides around, I think. I'm happy for a lot of the people. I'm not happy for Celtics fans. I'm not happy for the organization, but I'm happy for a lot of the players on the Celtics. Jason Tatum being a guy who I love to give Jason his like a hard time for everyone saying he's 19. We're gonna get into our players list. He's not like an alpha, take over the game, consistent performer, which I struggle with, but he's gotten a lot of crap, and he's been really good. Jaylen Brown, there was the conversation about, could this duo play together? I mean, everyone remembers going to last year. It was like, are they going to trade Jaylen, sign and trade him? They're going to break up the Jays. They never did it. They win. Drew Holiday, if anybody knows anything about Drew Holiday and his family and what he stands for, they're like one of the most easily rootable players to cheer for. And just guys like down the board, Derek White, even Kristaps Porzingis getting a ring is super cool. And although Raj hates Al Horford,
he hates him with all his heart.
Al Horford played in 186 career playoff games before winning an NBA title, and so it was really
nuts.
It's the most of all time. So it was really cool to see him get to host up the trophy. And he means a lot for the Dominican Republic fan base. They were flying their flags after the game and everything like that. So I just thought that was super cool. So, Raj, what are your? I feel like you're going to be a lot more cynical on the Celtics winning the title than both Peter and I are.
Yeah, this is a terrible day for the NBA in general. Celtics winning this has just been a terrible year. First, the Celtics win. The Chiefs win the Super Bowl. What was the other team that shouldn't have? What was their names? The obvious favorites have been winning. I just wanted to see something different.
Well, don't worry, we had baseball where the Rangers won, except it was at the cost of the Phillies falling apart in Game 6 and Game 7.
Yeah,
you're right. Just watch. The Dodgers are going to win this year, and it's just going to be the favorites winning every goddamn season.
It'll be the Yankees. Please.
I mean, it was like an okay finals. Every time I was watching, I'm like, the Mavs can't compete with these guys.
Yeah.
Every game I watched, it was like. Then again, I was also watching Twitter for the stupid Chipotle Bowl offers.
Oh yeah.
So I was feeding off those, but I mean, yeah, hopefully next season's a little more competitive. The West basically killed each other, and then the Celtics were having a stroll through a flower field going through the East. So can't believe I have to see Celtics fans happy.
Yeah, it's tough.
Did you guys see that they flew down to Miami at noon the day afterwards to go party in Miami? But they wrote on their board a flight to Miami at noon, which is exactly what Miami wrote on their board when they played Boston in Game 5 when it was a 3-1 series. because they were like,
Christ.
I was gonna say this in my disgruntled moment of the week last week, and I forgot. I'm always disgruntled. Like everyone keeps doing this thing where like the coach will say, "We told our players to pack their bags," like in an elimination game because they're gonna go back home or they're gonna go on the road. And every time it happens, like a new like ESPN or someone goes with it, and they're like, after Game 4 was a big thing where Jason Kidd was like, "Yeah, I told my team to have their bags packed because we were going back to Boston." Everyone's like, "Yeah, I love that mentality, not giving up on the game." I'm like, these are professional athletes. Like, number one, of course they're going to pack their bags because if they win the game, they're just going to be on the next flight out. Like, there's no time to hang out and pack your bag anyway. Number two, if you don't actually think you have a shot to win the game, then you might as well not be playing. Might as well not go in the game. Yeah. If you're a Dallas Maverick and you were like, "There's no need to pack our bags for Game 4 because there's a 0% chance we're going to win and go back to Boston," then you might as well not show up. Like this, they've been doing this for years. It was very classic with the Miami Heat. They would do the reverse sometimes, where like when they were on their 2020 run and their run last year, yeah, and their run last year, they would be like, "Oh, well, we didn't even pack to go back on the road because we knew we'd close the game." And it's like, all right, like I'm over teams doing that.
Yeah. Well, because then you have teams like that, and then you have the Boston Celtics with their head coach, and he'll just drop like the most insightful, like thoughtful quotes during like some random interview, like not even about like anything that's relevant. And it's like, oh, I could see how players want to play for this guy because he's not like, because it could sound a little bit corny, which is I think kind of like the issue with like the go pack your bags. I think it's just because like that's so popular at this point. It's like stop saying that. But then this dude, it'll be like just some random interview and like some guy asks him, it's like, "Oh, well, like how do you overcome adversity?" And he's like, "Well, you just got to pick yourself up through the mud and then dust yourself off." Like stuff like I can't even think of something off the top of my head because I'm not great at that. But you can look up some of these. Yes, absolutely. Jalen Hurts level of like deep, thoughtful quotes that he's like borderline doing like a sermon where he's like a preacher, just like talking to everybody. It's like, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that can actually get professional athletes fired up. Not like, "Oh, don't pack your bags." It's like, yeah, obviously I want to play. Like, yeah. No duh.
Like, imagine, I just could not imagine if like what the Dallas Mavericks, if they like after the game they won and everyone was like, "Oh, coach, I'm not gonna be all ready to get on this flight until tomorrow because like I didn't pack any bags." It's like,
yeah, why didn't no one has ever said that once? Like ever. That's never happened.
No, it's like everyone would pack their bag. Like you wouldn't not.
Also, side note, someone probably packs their bags for them. Let's be very clear here. Yes. Like this is an NBA team. I'm guessing that happens.
Well, that's like why when Miami wrote on their board, like, "Oh, flight back to Miami at noon," when they were trying to like build up hype before their Game 5, it was like, of course you have to have the flight booked. Like, it's a flight.
Yeah.
Like, everyone has their flight booked. And that like Miami was like, "Oh, we'll wait until we win the game." No, it's nighttime, then you can't book a flight.
Like that's not how flights work. Even if you're flying private, that's not how they work.
You got to reserve the airspace. You got to make sure you get like go off the runway. Like no, you have to have the flight booked, and you can cancel it if you lost.
Exactly.
And even if you did lose, you still got to go back home to Miami, so your flight is still booked. Anyway, it just drives me up the wall every time it happens every year. Like every year there's a story about a team in an elimination game being like, "Oh yeah, we knew we weren't going to lose." And it's like, all right. But it's just funny that Boston did that on the flip side. I did want to give a shout out real quick to Jason Tatum because Jason Tatum did not win Finals MVP. I thought he should have won a Finals MVP. And obviously there's a lot to be said about his shooting performance in the NBA Finals, but I thought as a playmaker, as a defender, as somebody who was getting the really bad defensive matchups, like they were sending everything they could at Jason Tatum, a lot of double teams, hence his high assist numbers. I thought he had a really good NBA Finals besides putting the ball inside the basketball hoop. And I don't mean that as slander. I mean that as he got the job done even when his shot wasn't going down. So I give him a lot of credit for that. But he does drive me up the wall because he takes some of the dumbest shots I've ever seen.
Dude, some of those shots where it was like he would be like contested 3 and it's like, why are you trying to force this?
Well, like I thought Jason Tatum was playing really good, so I was kind of rooting for him in Game 5 to like have a really good performance. And so it'd be like, wow, like Jason really like in the elimination game showed up, shot 60% from the field, like just dominated. I'd be like, he would win Finals MVP because I thought he deserved. I wanted to see him like prove people wrong a little bit. But then he gets a 50% shooting. He's doing great. He's got a ton of points. Then at the end of the game, he kind of just starts like chucking up dumb shots. He's doing a step back three. He's
trying to pad his stats to really get the Finals MVP. It was so bad.
He's completely out of control. All of a sudden, his shooting plummets to like 40%. So then he's got like 30 points on 40% shooting. I was like, Jason, if you just like stopped trying and got a few more assists, maybe an easy bucket here or there, you would have finished with 35, 8 and 8 or something. And then you would have been on 50% to 60% shooting. Everyone would have been like, that is an all-time like closeout game from Jason Tatum. But no, he like shot a bunch of dumb shots. And I'm sure he doesn't really care that much, but I was like, you could have, you seriously could have like taken this Finals MVP from Jaylen Brown, because people will be like, oh, Jaylen Brown, he had a great defensive series on Luka, no doubt, but Jaylen Brown had averaged 2 less points than Jason, 2 less rebounds, 2 less assists, and he shot 6% better from the field. So it's not as if like Jaylen was just miles above better than Jason. So I just thought it was funny that he just kept taking these dumb shots, because he's literally like, you'll be like, wow, he made a couple nice shots, and then all of a sudden he's like 32 feet away, like stepping back, like in contested coverage. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
I think I genuinely think that idea encapsulates why everybody hates on Jason Tatum. It's literally not for him as a player. It's for him as all the weird that he does. Like, we're probably gonna get into it, and I kind of want to just get into it at this point, but like after they win, he tries to recreate like the Kevin Garnett, like we did it. It's like, brother, that is not the same situation to be saying that at all. Because someone broke it down. He recreated the Kevin Garnett thing. He quoted Steph Curry. And it's like, well, what are they going to say now? He tried to recreate the Kobe photo. It's like, dude, do your own thing. Stop trying to copy everybody. Like, come on. It's just so annoying.
I think
this is why I didn't want him to win.
It's just so. It's like, dude, you are an amazing basketball player, and I totally understand having idols, players that you have looked up to. But Jesus Christ, be your own person. Like, there's the one shot of him holding up Deuce Tatum. That is going to be his iconic shot. Like, the iconic moment for him. That's going to be it. Not the, we did it. It's like, no, that sounds cringe and forced. Like, that's weird. That's not you. Like, you are, like, he is known for having this kid that's always on the sidelines with him. Like, that's his thing. And it's like when you see him being lifted up into the air with the confetti falling down in Boston, like, that is the iconic moment. It's not going to be you holding the trophy trying to pretend to be Kobe. Like, stop it.
I like how you said that. That, cause I thought the picture of him and Deuce was super awesome. Like, I thought that was like, if you were a Celtics fan, like, I would frame the picture and put it in my house.
Exactly.
Or like if I was Jason, I'd make that my pro. Like, I think it's like a really cool picture that encapsulates like winning the championship and your family's there with you. And like you said, he's known for having this kid. He's always there. Everyone knows Deuce. And like he has like the kid, like, and then he just like goes back, and you could tell like when Lisa Saunders, who was doing the post-game press conference with Jason, like, he took a minute to come back from the mic to do the Kevin Garnett. It wasn't like it was a spur of the moment where you're like, wow, he really just like felt that we did it. I was like, he like thought about this beforehand. He was like, wait, hold on.
That came up. Yeah.
We did it.
Stop it.
Like, the raw emotion, like Kevin Garnett, you could tell, like, there, Cleveland, this was for you.
Yes,
like
dude. If someone said, if he said Boston, this was for you, I think there might have been boos.
I was gonna say there would have been a riot. They would have brought out the torches and the pitchforks and.
Oh yeah, we know Boston fans. They would have been itching to bring those pitchforks and torches out
right out of their closet.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Like, a little bit, he gets a lot of hate for being corny. Like, everyone saw the corniness coming. It was the most. It was
locked and loaded. Everyone's like, when is it going to show up? And it happened immediately. It was like, oh, God damn it.
Yeah. I am very happy for Jaylen Brown to also win the Finals MVP, because the conversation, he's expressed this before, the conversation was really never should we get rid of Jason Tatum? It was always like, should we get rid of Jaylen Brown?
Yeah.
Because everyone knows Jason Tatum is a much better player than Jaylen Brown. He gets a lot of different coverage. Everyone knows that. People like to make a narrative about it, but it's just anybody who knows basketball knows Jason's a better basketball player. So it was always like, should we get rid of Jaylen Brown? And he was always in the trade discussions, and he got the biggest contract in NBA history this offseason. And he was obviously drafted before Jason. And so you have this whole narrative created here about Jaylen Brown might be the guy who needs to go. And then he goes out and wins finals MVP. And there's no more conversations about breaking them up. The conversation now turns to, can they do it again next year?
Yeah, true.
Like, can they bring back-to-back titles to Boston? And I just think that as a narrative for the league and as a narrative for a guy who has just dealt with the worst type of media criticism, there's been racism from Boston fans he's dealt with and expressed that like discontent with. He's dealt with trade rumors, maybe not being re-signed. His contract's too big, doesn't have a left hand, all this type of stuff. And he goes out and in the biggest game of the year, he's defending Luka, who's a generational talent offensively.
Yeah.
And is doing a good job on him. And you can see in the mic'd up clips, he's telling Joe Mazzulla, he's like, if Luka's in the game, I want to be in on Luka.
Yeah, he's like, give me Luka. I want this matchup. Love it.
I mean, I think it's the reason ultimately he wins Finals MVP is because he was the primary defender for Luka, which is saying a lot. It's like kind of Andre Iguodala comp from 2015 where Andre
kinda. I could see
held
that.
LeBron to 37
Oh, God.
on 60% shooting and won the Finals MVP for his defense on LeBron.
Dude, that was so funny, dude. Oh my God.
If I was Steph, I'd be pissed. Like, it's not. Yeah, it's about the chip at the end of the day, but like when your teammate actually doesn't stop LeBron and
that gets
MVP
like, guys, you don't understand. He played such good defense on LeBron. He held him to 5 less points per game. He averaged 30.
like he cooked you. I'm gonna look at a stat real quick just because I don't want to get it wrong.
And it's kind of a similar thing here, even with that, because like Luka still averaged like 30 points per game, so he was still cooking, even though Dallas looked terrible this entire series. But yeah, I totally see that, and I really do like that Jaylen Brown did win this, both Finals MVP and the Finals in general, because there was also like a lot of talk about like how overpaid he was, and of course, granted, I was one of those people saying that. I want to make this very clear that he didn't have a left hand because it was very, very funny. But at this point, it's like, okay, now these people can chirp online as much as they want that he doesn't have a left hand. Now he's got a ring, a Finals MVP, and is the highest paid player in NBA history.
I will say LeBron did only shoot 40% for that series. I would like to make it clear that he also didn't have Kyrie and Kevin Love that series, so he really was the only person responsible for creating for his team.
Yeah, could you name his second player that is on that team?
It was Matthew Dellavedova.
Oh my God, bro.
He averaged that series 36, 13, and 9.
Oh my God. It's
so while he didn't shoot well, the guy got Finals MVP for holding LeBron to 36
to nearly a 35-point triple double.
Oh my God.
Yep. Well, they could just send doubles because
whatever. Anyway, this is not a LeBron podcast, even though we love our glorious Pookie Bear.
King. Any other thoughts on the Boston Celtics? I guess we can go to Mavericks a little bit real quick. For me, for the Dallas Mavericks, obviously they had a great season. I don't think a lot of people were taking them to make the finals this year.
No shot.
Thought they would be in playoff contention. They're hoping to have a comeback after a rough season last year, but awesome for this team to get to the finals. It's just very clear that they don't have enough talent across the board to contend with the Celtics, and truthfully, probably they don't have enough talent to contend next year. We'll get into this in a little bit, but I think the way playoff series are won these days are a lot more matchup based than they are necessarily skill based. Like, how much talent do you have? And I think they rode that wave, but I don't want to take credit away from them. Luka came into the playoffs on a bad knee against the Clippers and weathered the storm until it got a little bit better. to which he completely took over during the Minnesota Timberwolves series, a team that took down the defending champions and the Nuggets. And then they got to the finals, and obviously they got cooked, but that was in due part because Kyrie caught the bad vibes in Boston and couldn't play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at the stats, this is sort of Bron 2015 type stuff. Luka led the team with 29, 9, 6, and almost 3 steals a game. He shot 47%, which is not bad. A little bit bad from the free throw line and bad from 3-point line. His next leading scorer was Kyrie, who averaged 20 on 41%, which is not good. And I would like to mention Kyrie was excellent in Game 3, which they lost, in Game 4, which boosted those stats. And in Game 4, I feel like you could just throw that stat out because Boston wasn't trying. Then you got PJ Washington at 10, Gafford at 8, Derek at 7. Like, you just fall off a cliff real quick. Whereas Boston, it's like 20, 20, 14, 13, 8, 12 going down. And you're like, oh wow, these guys really deep. So I give Boston a lot of credit. It's great for their fan base. You'll get to see another season of Kyrie and Luka, no doubt. I think it sets up a lot of interesting narratives in the West next season. So caps off to Dallas. You're just, as Raj kind of mentioned, I think, or Peter did, you just were not as good as the Celtics.
Yeah. That's really all there was to it. It's like Boston was the better team. They handled their business. They won. Mavs, good job even getting to the finals. Nobody thought you could. Just get a better defensive center for next year, please.
Raj, any thoughts for your Mavericks in 6?
I spoke them into the finals with my little bracket. I didn't think they'd make it that far, so I said, hey, maybe I can speak into existence the Mavs being the Celtics, but they shouldn't. If the Mavs didn't make it, I wish the Timberwolves or the Nuggets made it. Someone to give the Celtics some competition. That was a really boring NBA Finals.
Yeah, I guess we can hop into our thoughts of the NBA season as a whole now because we're kind of starting to inch on it. My thoughts on the NBA season as a whole is injuries are really starting. The league is very deep right now, which is super good. But the problem is these injuries are really starting to pile up. And it's been happening for a little bit now, but I hate to be that guy. But if we just go through the Eastern Conference really quick, Boston 1-5 on a team against the Miami Heat who didn't have Jimmy Butler. The second series, Orlando and Cleveland, they were completely healthy. And then you had Indiana and Milwaukee, which Milwaukee had a champion on their team at Giannis, one of the best players in the league. Both him and Dame eventually got hurt. So that series was injury. Then you had Knicks and Sixers, which it was a great series. Everyone acknowledges that, but both teams were hurt. So you weren't even getting the best product out of both teams. Then the Knicks and the Pacers play. The Knicks are completely hurt. Pacers were healthy. They advance. Then you get Boston, Cleveland. Donovan Mitchell gets hurt. Then you get into and then Tyrese Halliburton gets hurt. Yeah. So, obviously, Tyrese didn't get hurt until the end of the series and everything like that, but a ton of injuries. The Western Conference, not so much with the injuries. But that kind of defined the Eastern bracket. I think people are really giving the Eastern Conference a hard time, and I don't really think it's deserved. I think if you had Miami healthy, Boston healthy, I don't love Miami. I'll still give them credit for that. Miami healthy, Boston healthy, the Bucks healthy, the Sixers healthy, the Knicks healthy. I think it's 5 teams right there that you're they're really good. Yeah, and could be really interesting, and there's to be some interesting stuff next year in the Eastern Conference. So I think people are kind of just writing off the East as not being good. A Celtics-Bucks series, Dame, Giannis versus Jalen and Jason, that series would have hit like crack.
Yeah, that really would have. But alas, we got the Pacers with a zesty white boy as their number one option.
And then for the Western Conference, obviously a bloodbath. This is where my take comes in for the Western, for the matchup portion of it. I watched the Nuggets lose to the Timberwolves, who felt specifically designed to beat them with their tall front court and perimeter players. It was Rudy Gobert and Kat can stop Jokic. So you got 2 centers on the court. That's the only way you stop them. And then they got into the Mavericks, which they were all offense and we have really lanky rim protectors that can handle Rudy and Cat, and they were like, because people forget that the Timberwolves lost in 5.
Yeah,
like the Timberwolves got cooked by the Mavericks because it was a good matchup. Like Luka, they had no one to guard Luka, the Timberwolves, and then the Mavericks could easily just with lengthy young front court players take care of business. So just completely match up based, in my opinion. I think that's but I think that's the league we're heading in now. It's like, how many matchups can you cover with your team? You have less margin for error that way. Unfortunately for the Nuggets, I think they ran into the one team. Like I still contend that the Nuggets would have won the championship this year
if they didn't
run into that Timberwolves team. I still think if they play the Timberwolves 100 times, they win 70, 80 of them. But they didn't.
Yeah,
and that's how you either win or you don't win. So that's my thought on the NBA season. I thought it was a pretty good season. I think people forget early season Joel Embiid was cooking everybody, and on his way to an easy MVP. Obviously gets hurt, but that was really interesting. And then you had the whole Bucks drama all year. The Celtics were the best team in the league. In the Western Conference was a bloodbath throughout. Victor, it was I thought it was a really good basketball season, and I think the finals were a little bit of a letdown from what people wanted to, but I think we're going to kind of have to get comfortable with the fact that if injuries keep happening at the rate that they're happening, this is more likely what's going to happen than the days of having LeBron and play the Warriors is over. LeBron is 30, almost 40 years old, and there's no KD Steph Warriors anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's just going to be the best team that is also the healthiest is going to win, period. That's just how it's going to work.
Yeah, and I think people forget that's how a lot of championships have worked in the past. The Lakers, after they won their title in 2020 in the bubble, LeBron was hurt that next season, so they didn't make a title run. And you forget that a couple years later. We will forget in a few years the Celtics won the 2024 championship, and they went through a weaker Eastern Conference. That'll be something that skips our mind. People often forget the Raptors when they won the championship. In 2019, both KD popped his Achilles and Clay got hurt.
Yeah,
which is part of the reason that they won. You forget that kind of stuff. We only remember that Kawhi was excellent, but just a thought we're never going to have, I think, a fully healthy playoff run. I hope we do. I really do. I would love to see an iconic playoff run next year. I think we're set up for one, but I'm also not confident that in the Eastern Conference, Giannis, Dame, Joel,
they'll
Knicks
all stay
players,
healthy.
Yeah, and I hate to say that, but Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been very healthy throughout their career. If one of them goes down, and it's wide open. So, what are your guys' thoughts on the NBA season?
Like I said from this jump, the NBA is a comedy. Nothing that happens in the NBA is real. We got Jason Tatum over here doing the cringiest stuff I've ever seen with the trophy. What else? We got the whole gambling thing with Jonte Porter.
Yeah, the Jonte Porter.
Free my man. He did nothing wrong. That's just me. What other? We had the whole Bucks and Pacers
during the in-season tournament.
Game ball gate.
We had that. What other stuff happened this season?
I want to circle back to the Jonte Porter while we're doing a trip down memory lane real quick. He was betting the unders on himself, which meant he was not confident he could go into a game and score. He could have gone into games and been like, "Oh, I'm going to be the main ball creator and just try to score points." He was betting the under on himself and then pulling himself out of game. That's crazy. Someone needs to see him to get more confident. He needs to see a therapist to get more confident
in his game. Brother, he ain't playing in the NBA ever again.
Well,
I'm banned.
He's joining the Big 3 league.
Oh my god.
The whole Draymond being an
thing?
actual menace to society.
Did we talk about the whole?
No, I was gonna say.
Did we talk about the whole Draymond on TNT thing with the Timberwolves? I don't think we did.
I don't think so.
We recorded that week. Draymond, pretty much Anthony Edwards refused to do interviews with Inside the NBA with TNT because Draymond was one of the guests and just spent the entire time making fun of Rudy Gobert and Cat. So instead of being an actual analyst and contributing to the conversation, he just roasted players he doesn't like. And then so Anthony Edwards was like, I'm not going to talk to your broadcast. And then TNT was upset because they couldn't get one of the best players in the league to like talk to them after a game. But he was like, you're making fun of my teammates.
Draymond just cannot help being a menace. Like, he's just going to do it. Like, whether, like, I don't even think he realizes he's doing it half the time, where he's like, what do you mean, why are you not going to come on? It's like, dude, you just said that my teammate was a French idiot. Like, obviously I'm not going to come on and said, like, talk to you.
Also, Julius Randle showed up on the ESPN broadcast, ABC broadcast for the finals. Contributed absolutely nothing. Randle contributed nothing to the broadcast. Every time, like, Bobby Marks and like Stephen A were just talking about how like people were injured, and then they're like looking over at Julius, and he's like, "Yeah, I was injured." And then they were like, "Well," and they're like, "Well, maybe the Celtics will repeat next year." And Julius is like, "Well, I hope they don't."
Jesus, Randall.
And they were like, well, a team hasn't repeated in like a bunch of years, and he was like, well, I'm gonna try to make sure that doesn't happen. Like, he was just sitting there pretty much being like, yeah, like I don't want the Celtics to be good next year, and I'm not.
It's like you're giving zero insight into the game whatsoever. It's like, thanks, man. Why are you here?
Because even if you had a Western Conference player, you could like make the like, but like no, Joel Embiid was also on the broadcast and like said on the thing that he hated the Celtics because they're choosing bad people to go on the the broadcast. They're choosing people that play the Celtics all the time, get their ass kicked by the Celtics, and then they're like,
"Hey, do you want to compliment the Celtics?" Like,
no.
I
don't want to talk about the Celtics. And if you're Julius, you're not going to be like, oh, you're not going to like start like loving up the Jason Tatum because then you have to go defend him next year.
Oh my god!
I thought Julius Randle was completely useless. I was like, man, just get him off the broadcast.
Like, what are we doing here? Like, just let this man go.
You're like, oh yeah, the Celtics had a great run in the playoffs. You're like talking to the guy who may have made a difference for the Knicks.
Yeah, literally.
And like had a competitive. Like, it's like, okay, come on.
Like, what are we doing? This is ridiculous.
Man, Raj, you got good memory. You're bringing us through memory lane on this season.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else happened.
I mean, Tyrese Halliburton was a god for half the season.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, you had the like the fun JV team, Thunder. They were good.
Yep. You had the Detroit Pistons who went on an all-time losing streak.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, wasn't it like a 28 game losing streak?
Yep. And then the 26 or 28, and then the Wizards promptly were below them in the standings at one point in the season, and no one talked about it.
Yep.
And we did a whole podcast episode on how bad the Wizards were.
Yep. Yeah, I can't think of anything else right now.
Yeah. But either way, I thought it was a fun NBA season as always. Yep, Raj's right. It is a comedy show. Things happen. There's something's gonna happen off that's gonna be super goofy. We've already got Pascal Siakam getting 46 million a year. Monty Williams getting fired. Getting paid like $65 million on his contract. So it's always the fun thing about the NBA is there's always going to be drama. It doesn't matter what time of year. There's about like a couple month period of time where there's not drama happening.
Yeah, it really is just a soap opera at this point. Like, and it's awesome to tune into every year, and I genuinely can't wait because next year is going to be yet another good year. So I miss basketball already.
Okay, that's enough about the NBA. We're going to take a quick break from the NBA, and we'll circle back to it in a minute. But we're going to break it up with everyone's favorite topic, most toxic topic on sports right now, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. So if you were not aware, people listening, on Sunday, the Sky played the Fever, and Angel Reese hit Caitlin Clark on the head while she was driving to the basket. It got called a common foul on the floor. They reviewed it, upgraded it to a flagrant one. If you look at the video, I'm not even being biased. It was a flagrant one foul. Caitlin went up. Angel didn't like try to like be dirty, but she hit her on the head. If you hit a basketball player on the head, it's a flagrant one foul. It's like in the rule book. She was slightly out of control. No, and it's like the Angel didn't get ejected or anything. Just a flagrant one foul. Cool. All you do is get two free throws and the ball back.
Yep.
Like not a big deal. Well, it would have been three free throws because the technical, but like it's not a big deal. Post game, they asked Caitlin Clark about it. She says it's just part of basketball. Angel says it was a basketball play. I can't control the refs. Little interesting. Then later she says in the press conference, I think we went up really strong a lot of times and we didn't get a lot of calls. And going back and looking at the film, I've seen a lot of calls that weren't made. I guess some people got a special whistle. This is, of course, after the first time the Sky and the Fever played. Kennedy Carter fouled Caitlin Clark unnecessarily, and then Angel was in the background like, yeah. And then Caitlin just said at the end, we're competitors. That's the way this game should be. It's going to get a little feisty. It's going to get physical. But at the end of the day, both teams are just trying to win. And there's been a lot of media coverage on it. And I just want, what is your guys' thought on the recent edition of Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese?
So here's my thing. The reason why I think at this point it's blowing up even more so is because of the media attention to it. Like, if the media just let it be whatever, it would just be like, oh, hard foul on Caitlin Clark. What does she have to say about it? And then she's just like, yeah, it's basketball.
It's
it
just
happens.
part of basketball.
And then it's like, okay, anyway, moving on. But then they're trying to make it a much bigger thing than it is. And it was, mind you, this was on CNN the other day. They were talking about this, about how Angel Reese fouled Caitlin Clark.
Fox News is talking about it too.
Fox News running it as well. It's like, why is this happening? This is not political in any way. This is a sport. This is not the worst foul in the world. Yes, it was a flagrant one, as you said, Justin, by definition, by textbook, but it's it wasn't really that egregious. Caitlin Clark just got up and was like, yeah, I just got fouled, whatever. But it's the thing that's just frustrating me the most is it's so obvious that the media is trying to make this a bigger deal for their own personal deals and not giving about the players at all. They're like, oh yeah, I don't care what Caitlin Clark has to say about this. I'm going to make this a bigger issue than it is because I need my news source to be able to do better. Versus Caitlin Clark, who's like, I just want to play basketball. I don't care. Stop making this a bigger deal than it is. It's basketball. But, that's the media. It's stupid, but whatever.
I just think this whole thing's just everything that happens to Caitlin Clark is blown out of proportion. It ain't that deep. What? These get called all the time. Fouls get upgraded when they shouldn't. Fouls get downgraded when they shouldn't. Happens all the time. It's just because it's Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and they know, oh, we're gonna get hella clicks on this because we talked about them. It's just what happens in this sport. And then what? We're gonna get a Washington Post article about how Caitlin Clark's an angel and Angel Reese is a heathen. Oh my God, I'm tired of seeing all this stuff about them. It's just what happens.
Yeah. I have a little different take. I don't mind anything that happened on the basketball court, the flagrant foul, whatever. I think Angel needs to do a better job at, and there's been a lot of racial tension with this issue too. I'm not going there. Simply saying at the end of the day, I guess some people got a special whistle when you flagrantly fouled Caitlin.
Yeah.
You need to have some level of Angel is coming off slightly across as jealous of Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
She mentions why people aren't talking about the other girls in the league instead of Caitlin, which I feel that's a conversation you could be having behind closed doors. Talking to the media about why they don't want to cover a generational basketball player is a little bit strange. When LeBron came into the league, people were not covering who's some bozo at the time. I can't think of anyone. But
because it wouldn't even be somebody like the Carmelo Anthony who came in at the same time because he was also really, really good. It was not the same thing.
Yeah, Angel's a fine player. No hate to Angel. No offensive skill around the basket, just to mention, but no finishing ability. Minus, do you know that Angel Reese is nearly shooting the same percentage as Caitlin Clark from the field? Angel plays center.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't she also 6'8"?
Yes. It's actually a little bit I looked at the stats today because I was making sure that Caitlin Clark was having a better season before I just said that. Caitlin Clark shooting a tick below her than Angel. And I'm Angel, but you're shooting near the basket. Those are statistically.
That
that's
makes
why
sense.
when Joel. It's why Joel, that's why Derek Lively shot 75% during the Western Conference Finals. Yeah, because he take a lob attempt every single time. Anyway, But I do think Angel needs to come across a little bit more as, and maybe she's doing this because she like wants to embrace the villain arc. She knows she'll get more clicks that way or whatnot. But saying that people are getting a special whistle, like when you hit someone on the head, it's a flagrant foul. Like you shouldn't be disagreeing with it after games. If you didn't see the replay and you don't know, hey, I didn't look at the replay yet. From what I saw on the court, I didn't think it deserved a flagrant foul, but I haven't really checked the tape. If you guys want to ask me about it when I get a chance to review it, cool. Like I like that Angel said it was a basketball play, but then she's like, I can't control the refs, and I'm just like,
yeah.
So like I don't mind whatever happened on the court. Like I agree. Like Caitlin Clark doesn't need us to like go on the media and defend her for getting hit. Like that's part of the game. I just wish that someone maybe was in Angel Reese's corner a little bit more, telling her like, hey, like maybe you don't need to like, because the Washington Post article referred to the LSU people as like it was like it had a lot of racial undertones to it. We talked about it on the podcast, like referring to them as villains, and like the white team in Iowa took down like the villains of a team that was majority black. Like it's not that narrative, but like I think someone should tell like Angel like, hey, if you keep like saying these things about Caitlin, like that's fine, but you may be portrayed this way, and people will keep talking about it that way.
Yeah. And also my thing is like it's one thing if like this was not like obviously, as we kept saying, like yes, it was upgraded to like a flagrant one. It wasn't the most egregious thing in the world, but like to act like you didn't do anything essentially versus like, oh, like it was like just like like I fouled out of a game on like a kind of a ticky-tack call, whatever. But like this was a very obvious foul, and like that's the hill you're gonna die on is a very interesting take.
And the refs took it to review. It's not like they called a flagrant one on the court and never looked at it. Like you fouled her, which is obvious, and and then you went to the replay, upgraded to a flagrant one, and then you're saying, I guess some people got a special whistle.
Yeah,
I don't know. I look at that. I'm like, I think you need to work on your skills a little bit at the media, just because I would hate for Angel Reese to end her career being remembered for the person who just sounded jealous of Caitlin Clark.
Because she obviously has talent. Like that's the whole thing. It's like she is a good basketball player, but like if you're only going to be remembered for your off the court stuff and not the on the court stuff, then it's like why are we playing basketball? Like,
yep.
Like that's 100%. Like that's why you're here. Like that's what I want to. That's why everybody's tuning in, is to watch you play basketball. It isn't to listen to you like get upset after the game. And it's like that's and it's not like. And I don't want this to sound like I'm saying like, oh, just shut up and dribble. No one cares what you have to say. Like obviously we do care what like she does, like her opinions on the game. We care about the opinions of every NBA player damn near after every game. But when every single time it's like a clear hard foul on a certain player and that happens and the media is like, hey, why do you keep fouling this player? It's like, oh well, she gets a special whistle. It's like, no, we saw what happened. Like that's not that's why it's called a flagrant foul. Like you shouldn't be doing that. And it's just like, I don't know, it's odd.
That I just like I don't think Caitlin wants it to be in the news, and it feels like Angel wants it to be in the news a little bit.
Yeah,
based on her comments.
I don't know.
But yeah, I know some people are blowing out proportion, obviously making it political, and I think that's like not where it's at right now. You could argue that bias gets in the way of some things, but I think ultimately, I feel like if like a regular NBA player came out and said this, I'd be like, oh, like maybe you should check yourself. Like, just like if you committed an obvious foul. I probably I'll look at that next time. I shouldn't hit someone on the head.
It's like, I was going for the ball, missed, my bad. Like, that's it.
Maybe I was a little bit out of control. Did I deserve the flagrant? That's up for the refs to decide, but I'm just glad Caitlin's okay.
Yeah, just very, very simple. Like,
you could just be like, I didn't think it was a flagrant one foul. I saw that I got her on the head a little bit. I obviously went over to Caitlin to make sure she was all right.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, just trying to get a block on the play. There's so many better ways to approach the mic than like, I can't control the refs. I guess some people get a special whistle.
Yeah, it's just like,
okay, oh god, like whatever. You're just adding fuel to the fire.
Whatever.
Thoughts out to Cameron Brink, who tore her ACL today.
I was literally just about to talk about that. Like, speaking of other players that have, like, other rookies that have been doing very well on the court, she was doing very well this season, and goddamn, that was a rough break.
Yeah, and Cameron Brink's someone who's like doing. Again, she doesn't have like the reputation that Angel has from college, but she's come in and obviously she's in LA, but like doing a ton of things like for the league, like promoting WNBA.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
She's with Jimmy Butler, like taking pictures.
She was on like Paul George's podcast, I think.
Yep.
Like, she's like all over. I think she met up with Shohei Ohtani, and suddenly he could speak English when she was there. It's like, it's a little interesting. You needed an interpreter that was gambling for you, but now you can speak English.
But yeah, Cameron Brink, it's sad to see the ACL tear,
really tough.
But hope she comes back healthy and ready for the next season.
Yep.
All right. Now it's time. Top 10 players in the league.
All right. Jalen Brunson, number 1. Put it.
Who wants to start?
You think I'm kidding? Oh, no, sorry. I'm still joking. Yes, let's hear it.
Go.
I swear to God, if you have Tobias Harris at 1.
I have at number 1, how do you say it?
Piss off.
Antetokounmpo. No. I think I still have Jokic as at 1.
Why do you feel that way?
I mean, look at him. He's unstoppable.
Look at him. It's just like, some white guy.
Like, I think he knows how to lead his team. And yes, what happened in the playoffs was unfortunate, but still, I still have Jokic
I'm glad. I also have Jokic at 1. I think people will probably be commentating throughout your list, Raj. But I think people have kind of like got this idea in their head now. It's like, oh, he's not the best player in the league. It's like, all right, calm down. Like, he ran into a matchup, a team specifically designed to beat him. He was so dominant last year, won the title, and like actually no one on earth can stop him.
Yeah. Joker at 1. Good pick.
And Raj will take your second player in the league.
My Cameroonian Pookie Bear, Joel Embiid.
Boo!
Get out of here.
No.
I mean, okay. Embiid, okay, everyone shits on him so much, but like, he was unstoppable until he hurt his knee and then developed half Bell's palsy or something. I think he's better now from that. I still think he's at 2.
No.
Fair?
Incorrect.
Who do you guys have? Okay.
I have Luka at 2.
You have Luka at 2.
Yes.
You still got Jokic at 1.
Yes, I still have Jokic at 1.
Okay.
I have Luka at 2.
Okay. All right, Embiid at 2 for Raj. What do you got? 3?
3 I have. Where'd my list go? 3 I have Giannis.
Okay.
And then at 4 I have Luka at 4.
Okay.
I'll put him there. 5 I unfortunately have Tatum.
Okay.
Much as I hate him. 6 I have Steph. I still think he's good.
Yeah,
Just
I think
in a terrible situation with Mr. Let me kick everyone in sight and and an elimination game. Dude, that side note, that video of Klay Thompson picking up a phone and saying "ni hao."
Dude, that's
Did you guys see that he's working out with the Bahamas national team? I had no idea he had Bahama ties. Like,
oh my god,
it's him, DeAndre Ayton, and Buddy Hield. I had no idea Klay Thompson had ties to the Bahamas.
This brother's cooked.
Bruh.
So you just Steph at 5 or 6?
What number was I at?
Brother, we're asking you.
Oh, okay, wait.
You were Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Luka, Steph.
Okay.
Oh no, you had Tatum, Steph.
No, I Tatum then Steph.
Okay, yeah, Tatum 5, 6, Steph.
Okay, at 7 I have KD.
Okay, you're giving a lot of love to KD.
I think KD's still good. I think he's just whatever situation he's in the experiment. Basically, the Suns experiment didn't work. KD gotta go. Chelsea wants to kill me right now.
Bring him to New York.
I have Shea next.
Okay.
I think Shea's solid still. And then what? That means I have 2 more.
Yeah.
The guy Pookie Bear LeBron at 9.
Yeah.
Wait, are we talking about for next season or this season?
For next season.
Going into next season.
I'll still
Brother,
have LeBron at 9.
what the? That was the entire point of the list. That's what I asked at the beginning.
Well, I was more thinking about age for LeBron, and I was like a little bit like putting him there, but
I guess
think
that's
I'll have
fair,
LeBron
yeah.
at 9.
The fun thing with LeBron is there's no evidence to suggest that like he was a top 10 player this year, and there's no evidence to suggest he's just gonna like fall off a cliff going into next year.
It's a fair point.
Like
You're right. He has been solid
for 4 years, ever since he won the championship of 2020. It's like, oh, when's LeBron gonna be bad? When's LeBron gonna be bad? And he's just always good.
Yeah, there's still that all-time tweet where it's like, oh, LeBron's about to turn 30. His shenanigans won't last for much longer. And it's like he's been playing for like 8 years after that.
And then at 10, I have Anthony Davis.
Okay.
As long as he's not injured.
Wow. Okay.
Peter, you want to take a crack at it?
Okay. So I have what? I had Joker and then Luka. I also had Giannis at 3. I had Embiid at 4, so we basically just switched those two, essentially.
You guys are showing a lot more love to Embiid than even I am.
Brother, this dude was literally the MVP before he got hurt.
I know. I'll
We'll
talk about it.
All right. I had Shy at 5 because I think going into next season, I think he's going to take one of those leaps because he's already kind of proven to be one of the superstars. He's really consistent as a superstar. That's kind of my big thing. I think he's going to be even better next year because that team's so young. They're only going to get better. Then I have Jason Tatum at 6. Yeah, he's good. Who would have thought? Then I have at number 7. This is going to be a little bit of a hot take. I think Anthony Edwards is going to be number 7. Obviously, this year he was pretty inconsistent with how good he was. Obviously, he's only like 22 years old. He's very, very young. But I think going in, don't ever say that to me again. That's terrifying. He is shown those flashes of being incredible. I think he's just going to be more consistent next year. And if he is more consistent, he's going to be one of the top 10 players in the league. And he's MJ's son, so it's hard to keep him out of the top 10. Then I have Jalen Brunson. I think he's going to continue on his stretch of being absolutely incredible for the New York Knicks. I think he's going to get even better this next year. I think they're going to add some more shooting around him, so he's not just going to be the sole offensive option, which is going to make him, I think, look better overall as a player because that's actually what made his game good in Dallas because he wasn't just a shooter. But then he's kind of like we've almost seen like both halves of his game, but just not combined. Because we've seen how much of like a shooting potential he has in New York, but then when he was on Dallas, he wasn't the number 1 option. He was a much better passing guard. So I think we'll be able to see kind of both of those next year. Then at number 9, I think going into next year, I think Wemby is going to be a top 10 player next year.
But are you saying right now he is?
Right now, I think this guy going into next season is going to be the 9th best player.
Okay.
I will die on that hill. This dude should have been Defensive Player of the Year. He is.
No, he shouldn't have.
Yes, he should have. Don't.
You can't give Defensive Player of the Year to a guy who has 18 wins.
Brother, what do you want him to do?
He wasn't defending to win games. That clearly wasn't the case.
Sorry. I forgot this was a team sport. He was like one of the best primary defenders and had the most blocks in the league.
I'm not doubting that, but you just can't give awards out to guys who's on teams that blow.
My God, you are the worst. You're the absolute worst.
Wemby's a great defender, but I you need to win the game.
Yeah, he can average like a 25-point triple-double with like borderline 10 blocks. What do you want him to do?
Well, I'm not blaming Wemby for his team being bad. Like that's not the case, but like I can't be giving out awards to guys who are on teams who are not doing anything of consequence.
Whatever. Anyway, I get LeBron at 10. My glorious Pookie Bear is still top 10.
Fair. Number 1, I have Jokic, of course. multiple-time MVP, more MVPs than anyone in the league, won the chip last year, still the best player on the team, no doubt there. 2, I still have Giannis at number 2. I think people forget he won the title in 2021. He was awesome this year. He averaged 30 points. He's still one of the better defenders in the league. And that's in contrast to my guy at number 3, who's Luka, who's better than Giannis offensively. But I think if Luka's 100 offensively and Giannis is a 90, Luka's a 60 defensively, and Giannis is 100. I think that's just such a better defender than Luka. But I wanted to drop Luka farther, but I just don't because of his defensive performance. But the guys I have behind him just don't have the pedigree to cook up. So he sticks at number 3 there. He had a great season, but it is going to take a lot for him. And we can see what he does next year. It's going to take a lot for him to crack the Jokic Giannis for me in the top there because of how Jokic is a better offensive player than Luka and better defender. And Giannis is close offensively and a much better defender. So it's going to be really hard for him to crack it. But Jokic and Giannis are generational players. And we'll talk a little bit more in the offseason about it. Like, Jokic and Giannis are going for like top 15 all-time type of stuff.
Yeah.
And some seasons coming up here, especially if Giannis can get another title. Anyway, sidebar. I have Shai at number 4.
Okay.
Shai had a fantastic year. I think Shai's a very underrated defender. Underrated. He's a really good defender. People don't talk about his defense a lot. He averages 30. He's efficient. Like Peter, you kind of mentioned, he's leading a young Oklahoma City team. He's going to be even better next year. And I think he's a tick better than number 5, who I have as Steph. I was glad you guys had him high. I think like Steph still had a really good year, and his team's really struggling. Steph is not a bad defender. He's an okay defender. He's great offensively. I think Shai's a little bit worse offensively, a little bit better defensively. That's why I'm giving him the 4th best player in the league, which honestly, just for Shai to be considered the 4th best player in the league, or within the top 10 is like crazy from where he started. So just like hats off to him. Right behind Steph, I have Embiid. I still think he offers that top end potential. That's better. But I will say for Steph, Shai, Luka, Giannis, Jokic, they've all played better in the playoffs. Shai is a player kind of similar to Embiid, where draws a lot of contact at the line, still was able to get it done in the playoffs. The OKC Thunder did not fail because of Shai. They failed because they didn't have other talent around him. Whereas you can argue that the Sixers at times have failed because of Embiid. So, I mean, no disrespect to Embiid at 6, but I think when you have guys like, I don't feel comfortable putting him in front of Giannis or Luka just because of what they've done in the playoffs. And then like Shai, Steph, and Embiid, I think are in a class right there where they're competing. But Steph has the pedigree all time, and Shai was really just is a fantastic player.
Yeah.
But Embiid could also go out next year and win the MVP. So we'll see there. Right behind Embiid, I have Tatum. I wanted to put him higher because of the championship run, but just because of his shooting performance, I can't give him there. But I'll give him because he's younger and a better defender. LeBron right behind him at 8. I think people forget how good LeBron was in the playoffs this year.
He was really good.
He was really good in the playoffs this year. Still great offensively, still good defensively, which is why I have him a tick above Anthony Edwards, who's at 9 for me. Anthony Edwards, a guy who struggles a little more offensively, better defender, on-ball defender than LeBron, but doesn't eclipse him yet. And number 10, I have Kevin Durant. Anthony Edwards gets the nod over Durant because Anthony Edwards walked into Durant's house, took his money, kicked him down the stairs, shot him at gunpoint, and sent him packing to Cancun. So that's my list. We know we said top 10. A close 11, I wanted to give a shout out to Jalen Brunson, Jaylen Brown, and Anthony Davis. Those are guys for me that are like right on the edge of cracking into the top 10. Brunson he's just kicked out because there's really good players above him. Just because he's maybe still he doesn't have the reputation just because he's such a low draft pick, but a guy that I would keep an eye on for potentially getting up there in the Embiid, Steph, Shai class if he has a really good season next year.
Oh yeah.
So that is the top 10 notable admissions that make me very happy. Jimmy Butler, no one mentioned him. That was great because everyone last year wanted to pretend Jimmy Butler was a top 10 guy in the league. And what happened? He the bed this year, so that was great. That whole narrative was dumb and short-lived. Another guy that's good to miss the list, Kawhi Leonard. Don't show up to play the basketball games, and you don't get to be on the list. I know he's actually injured, but he's always injured. So he misses the list. Is there anyone else we're missing?
No, I think that's mostly
I
it.
think it's a pretty consensus.
Yeah.
Some news outlets did a top 10 player ranking. It was really bad. I would recommend they never do another listing again. I think it's the one Colin or Andrew sent in our group chat
Oh God.
earlier today. Absolutely, yeah. They had Luka 1, and Jokic 1, Luka 2, Shea 3, Giannis 4. That's fine, whatever. Anthony Edwards 5. This is where you start to lose me.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson 6, Jason Tatum 7, Jaylen Brown 8, 89, 10 LeBron, 11 Sabonis, 12 Durant, 13 Siakam, 14
Whoa.
15
This had to be
Rudy
the playoffs.
Gobert,
This
Gobert?
16 Steph, 17 Hallie, 18 Fox, 19 Embiid, and 20 Kawhi. Like that, like unless you're factoring in like availability, there's no argument for Joel to be below
19th.
DeMontis Sabonis.
What? Like
we both mentioned it. Embiid was going to win the MVP award. That was like clear as day until he got hurt. And you put him below Rudy Gobert. It's like absolutely unacceptable.
That's after Gobert just got shook out of his shoes by Luka.
By Derek Lively.
By Derek Lively.
Oh my God.
The rookie.
But he needs to put down the bottle.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
All right. That was top 10 players in the league. And with that, that is episode 36 of the Coconut Curry podcast. If you listen this far, please like, comment, subscribe. It helps us out a lot. And other than that, we'll see you next time.